Hey everyone, welcome to day 18 of the Spark Change Challenge. That seems slightly crazy. I can't believe we're at day 18. And today's theme is on achievement and accomplishment, and it's probably going to be another little bit of a short one. If you watched last night's video, I hit a bit of an autoimmune flare yesterday, and it's still going today. But as I said yesterday, it's funny how often the domains that I've sort of laid out to talk about that day, how relevant they end up being that day, partly because it helps me to notice more about things in that domain, but also just because I think life is funny like that sometimes. um, so today's video is inspired by people not just minimizing their achievements, but people um, just consciously not even being aware of when something could count as an achievement. So we've got the things like we talked about yesterday, the dealing with chronic illness and managing the spoons and all of that kind of stuff. That in and of itself is often an achievement. For me today, my biggest achievement was probably being able to get out of bed. And granted, most days I don't consider that an achievement, because most days it's not. Most days it's relatively simple. Today, not so simple, so it becomes an achievement. Um, I suppose that's what I'm getting at with today's theme. It's that idea of setting yourself realistic targets and achievable goals, and realizing that those targets shift depending on how you're feeling, depending on the situation, um, depending on the weather that day. Like there's so many variables outside of our control when it comes to setting achievable goals and noticing when you're achieving them. In terms of the little ways that you can bring a bit more achievement and accomplishment into your life, I did have one today that I thought was quite funny. Um, just one of those little moments that would be so completely normal and easy to pass by. But I was making up some soup and some toast, and the soup and the toast both ready at the same time. So they both, I could serve them both hot at the same time. And because today is achievement and accomplishment, and I was looking out for all those sort of things, for me today, that was an achievement. Being able to time those things so that they actually were ready at the same time, that was an achievement. And it felt quite nice to give myself, relatively small pat on the back for that one. I'm not something that I would generally be doing cartwheels over, but it was just a nice little moment of, oh, it's nice when things work out. So still very much talking about and focusing on how can we pay more attention to the things that we're doing anyway? How many times have you made yourself some lunch, and the toast and the soup have popped up at the same time, and you just got on with your day? What difference could it make? What small difference can it make to just sort of notice it? Take a split second to go, hey, look, they came up at the same time. That's nice. It's so easy to think about the missed steps, or the bad moments, or the cars that won't start, or there's a spider in the shower, or there's whatever, and we miss the little moments like that I think can make a big difference overall. There's excuse me. The other thing that I thought would be but in terms of today's theme and barriers to achievement, I think part of that is, like I said, not consciously being aware of what constitutes an achievement. And I had two examples of that recently that really sort of jumped out at me. One was um, someone getting like some good medical news, and when I said, "Oh, that's great! Like that's really good," really diminishing that and going, "Oh, well, all I did was take the tablets I was supposed to, and all of that sort of stuff," and not realizing, and because I did my honours thesis on medication adherence, I happen to know that medication adherence and medication compliance is not terribly good across the board. The stat that freaked the hell out of me when I was first studying this for honours was medication adherence or medication compliance, which is usually defined as basically sticking to the medication regimen that you've been prescribed around about 95% of the time, 90 to 95% of the time. So not even perfect 100% adherence. 90 to 95 is considered medication compliance or medication adherence. With even with patients who have just undergone organ transplants, medication compliance is usually more around the 50% mark. So I think if you are on a medication regime and you are compliant with it the majority of the time, that is a big achievement because it's not something that the majority actually does or can manage. So yes, the medication might have been doing the chemical hard lifting, but it's not going to get a chance to do anything if you don't actually take the stuff. So that's sort of what I mean about not even realizing that that was an achievement, not even realizing that that's not something that just everybody can do. We had a really good group supervision session last night where we were talking about all of the different domains in the Sparks Challenge. And I told a story there of a past client who was very prone to minimizing their own achievements and accomplishments. And they told me a story of their participation in this sporting event. And this sporting event happened a long time ago. And they were downplaying the fact that they had finished this race because they only came second. And as we've seen, my father was into Ironmans and all of that kind of stuff. So I happened to know that this event was later banned because people actually died trying to complete this event. And finishing it at all alive was a massive achievement, let alone coming second in it. And again, not knowing the context, not knowing just how difficult something that you have achieved actually is, I think makes us more prone to minimizing it. So knowing a little bit, if you are setting big goals, how realistic is the goal that you're setting for yourself based on, the numbers. It used to come up in IVF all the time. People would come in and be really worried and really concerned. They'd been trying to conceive for a couple of months and it wasn't happening. And there's a lot of things that go into that one, but statistically, even two perfectly healthy, no issues whatsoever, timed intercourse, everything like all the criteria going as perfectly as it perfectly can, as it absolutely can, you've still got roughly just under like a 25% chance of conceiving in any 1 month. So if you go into this thinking that, as soon as we stop practicing safe sex, I'm going to fall pregnant immediately, and then you don't, you feel like it's failed. Whereas the odds are actually much more likely that that first month you're not going to succeed. If you do, that's actually more unusual. So not understanding the goals that you're setting for yourself and how realistic they are in context, I think is kind of my theme for today when it comes to barriers to noticing achievement and accomplishment, giving ourselves that pat on the back. If we don't look into those goals first, I'm talking the big goals. I'm not talking about checking out what are the odds of me getting my toast and my soup done at the same time. I'm talking about um, wanting to make a business decision, wanting to change jobs, wanting to complete a master's in a certain amount of time. All of those big decisions, those big goals that we set for ourselves, knowing how realistic they are and basically what the stats say our likelihood of achieving it in a certain time frame is, so that we can pat ourselves on the back when we actually do achieve it and realize the context that it happened within, but also approach ourselves with more kindness and compassion if we don't get it straight away, if we don't achieve it straight away, and realize that quite often it's because it would have been unusual to achieve it in that particular time frame or in that particular way. So that's our domain for the end of the third week of the challenge. I'm giving myself a pat on the back for that one. This has been a big achievement already, and I look forward to seeing you all next week when we'll be getting into relationships and connections again, and yeah, kind of getting into the home stretch of the challenge. There's some yeah, some big content coming up in the next week or so, and I look forward to sharing it with you. But for now, I think it might be time to go back to bed, and I will see you all on Monday.